Let's take a look at the news report reading on the literacy test. We will look at some strategies, take a look at what the questions look like, and when you're done this video, you should feel confident completing the reading section news report. Here we go. So here it is. You can see a small version on the right there. It is a news report. It's going to be about 5 to 8 paragraphs. It'll be one page, and that's an important difference because some of the other readings, the narrative, the real life narrative is 2 pages. So this one is 1 page, and that's how you know it's a news report. You're going to find those 6 WH answers. So you're going to find the who, the what, the when, the where, and you're going to have quotations as well. So I know it's a little small, but you can kind of see in here, here's a quotation at the end, for example. And you're always going to have an image as well. So title, the passage, 5 to 8 paragraphs, and the image. So what are your strategies? Well, first of all, use the lead. The lead is the beginning or the start of the news report. It's going to be where all the key information is, the who, what, where, all of that. Also, know your news report structure. You're going to have short paragraphs. You're going to have an inverted pyramid. So again, that goes back to the lead, where the most important information is at the beginning. So they often teach news reports with an inverted pyramid, where up here is the important information, and then as you go down the pyramid, it gets more specific, and that's actually where the quotations come in. You'll see them later in the news report. So again, to review, at the beginning, the important information, later, the detailed information and the quotations. So if we take a look at our example, we'll see if we can find some of those details, some of those features that we saw. So the first thing is the lead. That's going to be here in the first paragraph, and we should be able to see a lot of the key information. So if I read it, Skyline International Development, okay, that's who, this company, announced on October 2011, that's when, okay, that it was purchasing, okay, so it's purchasing this, it's buying something, that's the what are they doing? They're purchasing this steamship and returning her to port in the Ontario township of Tay. The vessel, which had been docked in Southern Michigan since it was once the crown jewel of the blah, 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 blah. Okay, not so important. But we got 3 main things. We got the who, Skyline International. We got the when, October 2011, and the what, that they're purchasing it. You know, the why and the how we might find later. But that key information we certainly got at the beginning. As it goes on, it gets into more details. We said we're going to find quotations. So here's one in the last paragraph. Looks like that's the only one in here. So just one quotation, and that's fine. So the rest of this will be all kind of detailed information. Why did they buy it? You know, you can see in here a bunch of numbers. Looks like the details of the boat itself that they're buying. We know it's a boat because we have a picture there. And that's a little bit about how we can kind of find everything. Again, the title is going to help us. The picture is helping us tell it's the boat. Quotation will help us later. There's probably a question. And again, the most important, we found that key information here at the beginning. So what kind of questions do you get for the news report? These are the main ones. It's most of them. I mean, you're not going to get anything kind of really special for this one. So you could get really anything: vocabulary and context, specific detail, author intent, inferences, organization, main idea. You really could get anything. So you don't really need to kind of worry about, oh, this question's for the news report, this question's not. You're going to get a whole list of them. What you can worry about more specifically is that you will get one open response question on the news report. And when we say open response, we mean not multiple choice. You need to write your answer in sentences. And that open response will be an inference, meaning you need to kind of make a prediction, use the information that you have to make a prediction, or as we say, to make an inference. Let me read the question so we get an idea. Why might, that tells you right there, it's an inference, the Keewatin have been a popular ship for travelers. Use specific details from the selection to explain your answer. So it's always an inference, meaning the might means, well, it didn't say exactly why it's a popular ship. You have to kind of take the information and make a guess. So maybe it was very big, and you can say, well, it's very big and travelers like big ships. Or maybe you can say, oh, I don't know, it goes to beautiful locations, and you can say, well, travelers like to go to beautiful locations. Again, it's not going to tell you exactly, the Kiwitan was popular because it went to beautiful islands. No, no, no. It might tell you it went to beautiful islands, or it might tell you it had wonderful food on it, or it went very fast, or something, and you need to then make the inference to say, travelers would like that. Notice how it says specific details from the selection. So again, make sure you're using the examples. I've already given you some. So my first one was that it was very big. So I could say, well, you know, travelers might like the Kiwitan because it was a very big ship, and that's my specific detail. And I could even be more specific. I could say, actually, the ship was whatever, 20 meters or whatever. I would take that, I would go back to the sample or back to the reading, and I would find that information. And that's where they can really give you a good mark and say, yes, you found a really specific detail. You said exactly how big it was. Or my other example was the ship used to travel to islands, and I could say, I find in the reading, it went to Cuba, for example, and I use that as my specific detail. Some tips here, do this last. It's the last question, and you can do it last. The reason you do an inference question last is because you really want to have a good understanding of the reading, and the more questions that you do before, you'll get a better understanding. Don't look for the answer. That's kind of the idea of the inference, right? Again, it's not going to say it was a popular ship for travelers because, no, you're making an inference. That's the whole idea of might. You have to come up with the ideas yourself using the answer. And that's kind of this tip here, make an inference and use common sense. Inferences are very often common sense. They're not trying to trick you here or make you kind of do this big leap in logic or do something kind of really, you know, some genius answer. It's pretty common stuff. In this example, they'll give you a couple features of the ship and you just have to say, people would like that and talk about it. So that's some ideas on making inferences. And again, you will get this inference question for the news report. So here's an example. Let's see if we can kind of quickly make our inference. I already had thought of some ideas about maybe it went to islands or maybe it was big. Let's see. Well, here I can say it can carry 288 passengers. So maybe I say something like, it was very big. In fact, it could carry 288 passengers. Many people like traveling on big ships. Top speed, 14 knots. I don't know if that's fast or not. You don't know much about ships, but you could guess and say, that's very fast. It traveled 14 knots. People like that. Here's Port McNicoll and Georgian Bay, Port Arthur. Again, so my guess was islands. It's not. This is going around in Ontario. So you could just say, Lake Superior is very beautiful, or, Port McNicoll, many people like it. It doesn't really matter if you know that or if it's true. You're just using specific examples. Look, it has a grand staircase. It has a dining saloon. It has Italian glass. It has oak trim, so you could talk about the features there. Lots of examples you could pull. Just make sure you're using an actual specific example. So that's the news report. We saw that there's 5 multiple choice questions and the 1 open response question where you're making an inference. We looked at the news report where we saw that the key information is in the beginning, the who, the what, the when. We saw that there's quotations. We saw there's a picture, a title. There's going to be about 5 to 8 paragraphs. So make sure you're practicing with this. You're going to want to practice some of the questions so you can start getting an idea of how that works. But with these strategies and with these tips in this video, you should feel a lot more confident reading the news report.